everyone, I'm Surama Kaushik. You're watching Business of Sports, and today we have come up with a very, very interesting topic. So, cricket is evolving at a great speed, and by cricket, I mean the number of tournaments, the leagues, the matches, and a lot more. And amidst all this, what caught attention last week that there is a report that there is a new T20 league coming up in Saudi Arabia. Now, a couple of weeks before, we discussed about a new league in USA. Now, there are so many questions around it to discuss and to address. But the biggest one is whether we have the space to bring in another new league in an already packed up calendar. Well, to all my questions, there's one person who can answer these. And today as well, I have with me Network 18 Group Sports Editor K. Srinivas Rao, who's there to address all my questions. Now, Srini, a lot many cricket leagues are happening across the world, and a couple of weeks before, I came up with my bunch of questions regarding the USA cricket and what's around the Major League Cricket. This time around, I'm talking about a new league. Now, you see, there is a new league coming up every 2 weeks. Now, what's happening there? I really want to know.
Okay, so I want a very, first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I want a very special cap. Okay. If you
Okay.
look very carefully, it's, what is it written? Cricket Brazil,
Cricket Brazil.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And also, what's written here is cricket like a
Cricket
girl,
like girl.
right? Cricket like a girl. So, the fact that girls can play this sport as well as the boys can. Now,
Yeah.
why have I won this cap for the show? There's a reason. Is
Okay.
because um, if you love cricket, if you love the sport, if you love the game and want to play it,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a league uh, that will
Yeah.
help you play the game, right? This country, essentially a football dominated country, is picking
Yeah.
up cricket at a very fast pace, right?
Yeah.
Very recently, I met the lady in Brazil who's not just mentoring and captaining the national team, but is also kind of looking after the administrative duties and across the spectrum wherever cricket is concerned. She's helping build academies at the grassroots level and see where things can go into the future. Now, all these people, when they are talking about playing cricket, they're not talking about it from the perspective of running a T20 league, right? So that is what is the talking point.
Hmm.
You want to play the game and you want to ensure that the game grows in your country,
Hmm.
or all you are interested in is making a business out of the game,
Hmm.
not bothering how exactly is that going to help in
Hmm.
allowing cricket to grow in that country.
Yeah.
I think I seriously think it's a case of absolute short-sightedness, and I'm not even kind of talking about one specific destination here. I'm saying
Hmm.
this in general. In
Okay.
general, the excitement that people have to start a league. Yesterday I was out with some friends and I was actually joking about this. And वो हम, when we were kids, one of the favorite pastimes during summer holidays or while traveling is playing Antakshari, right?
Yeah.
In our homes here in
Yeah.
India.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
वो उसमें ना there is this line to start Antakshari in Hindi. There's this line, बैठे बैठे क्या करे करना है कुछ काम, right? तो अंताक्षरी खेल लेते, let's play
Okay.
अंताक्षरी since we are not doing anything. So the
Yeah.
modern day sports version of अंताक्षरी is league. बैठे
Hmm.
बैठे क्या करे करना है कुछ काम, चलो लीग शुरू कर देते, let's start a league. We don't have anything to do, let's start a league. And yeah, I mean that's where it's come down to. It's becoming a joke of sorts actually.
Oh yeah, because every day we're listening to a new news, so to say, that this country is thinking of starting a new league, a new T20 league. And okay, I understand money side. Let's keep the money side aside. But as you mentioned, that do we really need to bring up a new league in terms of expanding cricket? That's a bigger question to address. And also the other question is that a country like Saudi Arabia, if they want to expand cricket at their part, do they really need to start a new league? And as per the reports suggest two things: that either they are planning to start a full-fledged new league, or they are planning to extend the version of existing IPL to their country as well. Now, what is the actual news? What is the reality? What's this whole thing about?
Okay. So before I get there, let me start something like I even tweeted about this 48 hours ago.
Okay.
It began with something like this. News report number one: Saudi Arabia to start something around T20. News
Hmm.
report number two: Saudi is planning the world's richest cricket league, T20 league. News
Hmm.
report number three: Saudi has approached BCCI. News report number four: Saudi has initiated talks with IPL team owners. News report number five: Indian players have been approached to play. Report number six: somebody like BCCI says nobody has been approached. Report number seven: franchisees say nobody has approached. Some guy writes something and the others keep denying it. Some guy writes something, the others keep denying it.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny, and I honestly, I don't know how many of these people actually track. They all track cricket. Cricket is fine, but I don't know how many of them actually track what is sustainability model like. चलो शुरू
Exactly. Yeah.
कर देते हैं league. I don't know where this comes from. So
Hmm.
to start talking about anything around Saudi,
Hmm.
considering why is Saudi suddenly part of a conversation in T20 cricket?
Yeah.
Because again, one of the things that the Saudi has been seen doing is in some way or the other trying to sponsor or be part of the IPL. We are partner of the IPL, right?
Hmm.
Look at their government-run, oil this thing company, Aramco.
That's
They
largest. Yeah.
came and they sponsored the orange and purple cap of the IPL, which was
Yeah.
IPL's long-standing dream ever since the time of Lalit Modi, that the orange
True.
and purple caps had to be, sold separately. That
Hmm.
happened with Aramco coming and deciding to sponsor it.
Yeah.
Last season, just ahead of the season, we saw Saudi tourism come on board, and
Yes.
they have been trying to find feet here, and they think IPL is important enough, which it is, to catch the
Hmm.
eyeballs. I'll give you a background here. The background here
Okay.
is that you know you divide it into a lot of divide it into several segments. I'll explain it point by point. Number one, see what happened with football this decade after
Hmm.
Qatar won the rights to host the FIFA World Cup, and
World Cup.
after they hosted it so successfully. It's one of the
Yeah.
finest World Cups that we saw in Qatar,
Yes.
right? What was that big picture that Qatar tried to convey? That any Asian country in West Asia is as capable of hosting a marquee global tournament as probably the first world, the so-called first world, the United States of America, or in Europe, right? I mean, Asia was well and truly developing to be capable of hosting a marquee event like that.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a kind of as the start of the signaling of a shift in soft power. Football happens to be, for the kind of addressable sport that it is, the world's number one sport. It automatically transforms into being a great soft power for nations to use in bilateral relations between each other, right? And in that, Qatar hosting the World Cup was actually a signal of how the footballing soft power of the world has the opportunity to shift base out of Europe and South America to Asia, right? Predominantly, it has been a sport which has kind of done well for itself financially in the European markets. And today, how Asia finds a home there. And
Hmm.
similarly, now you have Saudi Arabia, which again has got Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo's move to Saudi Arabia was seen as just from the perspective of playing for one of the clubs there. No, I think the bigger picture here is how Saudi Arabia will also use Ronaldo's presence to pitch for the next FIFA World Cup that they are going to pitch for, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a big picture at play here, right? And this is to do with, obviously, as I mentioned, the shift in footballing soft power, and Asia being potentially the new home going forward.
Hmm.
That is the world's largest addressable sport. Cricket is the world's second largest addressable sport after football. I mean, these are
Hmm.
what the numbers say, not what K. Srinivas Rao is saying.
Yeah.
So by virtue of that alone, um, if Saudi Arabia wants to do something around cricket at any given point in time, okay,
Mm.
it would like to involve India, right?
Hmm.
And
Absolutely,
that is
yeah.
why this closeness in terms of trying to do something for the with the IPL, which is why Aramco has come here to sponsor the caps, or Saudi
Yeah.
Tourism is coming in as official partner. But why exactly? What is the reason? The reason
Hmm.
is that Saudi Arabia, at some point in time, wants to dethrone Dubai as the tourism capital of Asia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
it's Dubai. It is Dubai. Dubai is the one-stop destination.
Yeah.
Kind of. Whole city is, it's an air conditioned city for all practical purposes. You can go there any time of the year. It's like a global melting pot, and we all know what Dubai is worth. Now Saudi Arabia wants they want themselves to be a destination like Dubai. They have oil reserves 100 times of what Dubai has at its disposal. Dubai is under the shadow of Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi obviously is the elder brother there, and Saudi Arabia thinks that tourism could be big ticket deal going forward,
Hmm.
and why not if they see the
True.
potential in it. In
Hmm.
that, which is the country, you think of the top three countries anywhere in the world which has the
Hmm.
most number of global travelers and tourists?
Hmm.
Probably China, India.
Yeah.
India would rank in the top three or top five nations, right? Now,
Yeah.
if you have to appeal, if you have to lure an Indian to your shores, how many catalysts can you think of? Food, which we can't do
Yeah.
without. Wherever we travel, we require Indian food, right? Movies, cricket. That's what these are the things that we love, right?
Yeah.
And that is why there is an effort being made to try and see what can be done in order to attract tourism from a country as massive and as huge as India,
And
right?
absolutely, when
And
it
that
comes to cricket also, you really need to cater to the biggest market of cricket. You can't do anything without India when it comes to cricket. So obviously, they need to build nation power. They also need to build the relations with India in terms if they want to start a new cricket league, and perhaps that might be the reason, isn't it?
precisely, and that is the reason why, if at any point in time Saudi Arabia is going to take its cricketing interests to the next level, it's going to be keeping bilateral relations with India with
Yeah.
tourism and other business driven potential in mind.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not because they want to start some T20 league, too small a thing in their scheme of things, what they are planning, right? Why
Yeah.
would they want to nurture a sport which is not, doesn't naturally come to them? If they had to do something around cricket, what? I mean, they have a very strong bilateral relation with India, and
Hmm.
probably, have talks at the PMO level to try and see if India, or if the Indian Premier League or the franchisees in the Indian Premier League can possibly play a few exhibition matches every year in the United Arab, in the Saudi Arabian, on the Saudi Arabian shores.
Hmm.
And so you know I can tell you this that South Global, again, it's a global platform in which the PMO is very keenly involved and is a driving force.
Yeah.
Kind of, people can Google South Global for what it is and try and understand where India is coming from. And it's being driven with a long term perspective in mind, where bilateral relations with countries play a huge and a very important role. And from that
Yeah.
perspective, I mean, I can tell you at some point in time, cricket has also been discussed as a potential catalyst to try and see how
Yeah.
relations with the country can be improved. That doesn't mean कि आप अंताक्षरी खेलना शुरू कर दो and start a T20 league. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And
By
in
the way,
that note,
by the way,
yeah.
sorry to disturb you, but like, kind of, even if you were to consider league, where exactly are you going to play with it? Who exactly is going to come and watch? Who exactly is going to play in that league? What, you'll do another I League, IL T20, like, get players from around the world. Where is the calendar? What? I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know how people write all these things.
Yeah. And I was coming to that point only, Shreni. But before that, I really want to go and I want you to just rewind yourself a little. A couple of weeks before, where we were discussing about USA cricket. Now there have been developments around USA cricket as well, and in our previous shows, we discussed that ICC denied the recognition to USA cricket. Then they were having their own personal issues. A lot of things were happening there. What is the status update over here? And then we will build around USA cricket, and we will talk about the other leagues as well, as you were talking right now. So, what is the current status of the USA cricket?
First of all, in terms of how ICC goes about giving permissions, denying permissions, giving permissions, I think even a cat is more predictable than the ICC. I
Yeah.
don't know when they stop permissions, when they give permissions, for what joy they stop. The administration in United States, cricket administration in United States, has been in the doldrums for the longest time. Ever
Hmm.
since 2015, when Shashank Manohar had taken over as the chairman of the ICC and terminated the previous cricket federation which was there in place, and the new body tried coming. And since then, if you look at the administrative regimes in America, there has been no stability at all. There has been infighting. There have been serious charges and accusations leveled against each other in the past. MLC, the major cricket league, the guys who run the major cricket league at times have failed to identify who they really need to be in
Hmm.
consultation with from an American cricket administration standpoint. The ICC has time and again admitted that they themselves don't know what is happening, and in the middle of it, but they've gone there and kind of and ensured that a World Cup can be hosted. I don't know how they
Yeah.
do that. I mean, and then suddenly they said no, 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 no. MLC can't be. We will ask our member boards not to allow players to participate in the MLC. Why? Because there seems to be confusion there in terms of the local cricket board. There is no clarity. But yeah, they can host the World Cup. you know okay, and then 48 hours later they come back and then they say no, no, now things are absolutely fine, new body has been elected, so now the
Yeah.
member boards can participate. So I have stopped now kind of trying to understand what ICC does, because they themselves actually, there are certain people probably who alone understand what they want to do there. Someday I will although get into it. But that said, well, I don't want to talk about the federation, the governing
Hmm.
authorities of the sport in America, cricket in America,
Hmm.
because to me they just don't instill confidence for the number of times that they have walked into the space, and I don't know for what kind of elections are held there, what kind of stability is there. But let's talk about MLC and the people who have tried to put the T20 league in place. Now they are
Place.
not
Yeah.
administrators. They have
Yeah.
put in serious money. It's an investment in a business.
Hmm.
I don't care much about the so-called administration process if things are not moving in the right direction. See, I mean, I appreciate at times what BCCI does, because again I see them from close quarters and they have done enough for Indian cricket. So when
Hmm.
an administrative body oversees, kind of presents a picture as hazy as this, as America has been doing for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I mean, it doesn't really interest me. What interests me is what Major League Cricket is doing.
Yeah.
So I'll just
Absolutely.
wrap this up very quickly.
Hmm. Yeah.
And Times Internet is a company, which Mr. Satyan Gajwani is the vice chairman of Times Internet. He
Hmm.
is an American, and he is interested in cricket. And for the longest time, he's wanted to see, what can be done from a games perspective on the US shores. That doesn't mean that he wanted to go in as some administrative role. No, because he saw potential, he invested money from his pocket. That's a
Hmm.
gamble that is risky has taken as a business. Anybody who launches a new business takes a risk, right? There is no guarantee that your business is going to succeed. So today, that man has, it's been his vision, and
Hmm.
along with the Times Group, Mr. Vinny Jain, the managing director, and look at the vision. The vision is not based on the other existing revenue models on the basis of which other T20 leagues around the world are functioning.
Hmm.
No, it doesn't. It's not based on the CPL model. It's not based on the CS Cricket South Africa model. It's not based on the ILT20 model. It's not even based on the IPL model.
Hmm.
The MLC is a very different, it's an equity based model where every investor who's coming in is coming as a stakeholder and a partner,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's a very different and a very interesting business model. Now, what doesn't work in my
Hmm.
mind is who exactly is going to watch this.
Yeah.
That I have not found the answer. Now, the scale at which you want to pull this off, I
Hmm.
don't know. I still don't know the scale at which you want to pull this off. Maybe chances are, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume that they are not trying to build castles in the air. They're trying to start a T20 league at a very basic level and try and see where it goes into the future. If
Hmm.
that is the case, fine. Because again, if they are trying to look at this from the perspective of what UAE Emirates Cricket Board is doing, I'm sorry. I don't know how exactly they are going to succeed, because look at the time zones, the American time zones. If you're going to play matches in Florida, Miami, Los Angeles, I think we discussed this the last time in our show. And,
Yeah.
how exactly are you going to make money if that match is not being shown in India and prime
Yeah.
time? And if you have to do that, then you have to play those matches early morning, 7 o'clock, 8
Hmm.
o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. in America, right? So
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
again, the scale at which they're trying to do things, maybe if it's at a grassroots scale, who knows? Probably yes. Then it's fine. I mean,
Yeah. And actually, Srini, why I asked you this question is because I really wanted to know where USA cricket and Major League Cricket are currently positioned. Because last time when we were talking about, we got to know that there's a lot of chaos. And from last week till now, as I already mentioned earlier in the introduction part, that, a new league has come up, and how these leagues are coming up in various nations. So it's such fast paced. But why I asked you this question is, and also you referred this point, that how are these leagues even contributing to the larger discourse of cricket? That's what I really want to understand, especially when we are talking about CPL, PSL, ILT20, SA20, now this Major League Cricket. Now Saudi Arabia is also planning a league. IPL is already there, the oldest one in all these names. Now, except IPL, let's keep IPL aside and let's talk about all the existing leagues and the leagues that are coming up, the mushrooming leagues. How are they contributing to cricket in terms of business?
okay, yeah. So leave the IPL aside, because I mean that's happening in the home of cricket. I mean, home is where the heart is, not in England.
Yeah.
Home is here. So home is where the heart is, and that's where cricket is going to kind of is safe. And so
Yeah.
let's leave the IPL aside. Let's count one by one quickly. Cricket Australia, Big Bash. Big Bash is run by Cricket Australia.
Yeah.
It's not been privatized yet.
Hmm.
Chances are Cricket Australia doesn't want to privatize Big Bash, because it knows that if tomorrow it decides to privatize it, probably all Indians will go and buy the franchises there. That's what probably they don't want, and that's why they've been resisting. But how long? While they take the call, the finances of Cricket Australia Big Bash are not very good, and as it is, they are not catering to the strongest of time zones. So
True.
it's a struggle. It's like literally hanging by a thread.
Hmm.
The Pakistan Super League (PSL). PSL again, it's got that window, but now it is competing with again two other leagues, and kudos to the Pakistan Cricket Board, who have managed to kind of somehow ensure that it continues. But again, at some point in time, they are going to face the same problem. Availability leads to demand versus supply game,
Hmm.
and how exactly they are going to sustain the finances. Because not because see, good thing about Pakistan is what they have a good domestic system. I said any country which has a good domestic system can try and sustain. Pakistan has a good domestic system because again it's been playing cricket as long as anybody else has been playing, right? Most
Yeah.
other countries. So because of that, they have a constant flow of local players. So they are not heavily dependent on overseas players. So tomorrow, if an America or a Saudi Arabia or a UN, United Arab Emirates, like IL20, whatever we see, they have to
Hmm.
start a league, or rather, what we saw in Emirates T20 league already. Just so dependent on overseas players because you don't have a domestic circuit of your own, which is not the case again in South Africa. The
Hmm.
problem here is financially how you're going to sustain these leagues and how you're going to take it forward. That's going to be a struggle at any given point in time. But availability of talent, the pressure reduces because you got a local flow going, right?
Hmm.
And because it is in abundance in India, the IPL becomes what it becomes, right?
Yeah.
In that sense, South Africa is still relatively safer because there is local talent available. Financial revenue patterns are going to have to sustain. That's a
Yeah.
long term question that we ask. Same goes with PSL. I've told you about where Cricket Australia suffers from. Caribbean Premier League again has a good domestic flow of talent. T20 cricketers, West Indians who have predominantly done well in the format, in the T20 format. But again, where West Indies suffer is prime time visibility. Where they
Yeah.
cater to is again the Caribbean and the American markets.
Hmm.
So to make money out of it, and to make it sustain, and the jazz around the league, if they're going to keep it going, then they need to sell it in the Asian subcontinent. That's why we've seen CPL hosting matches in the morning, which again time and again doesn't really satisfy the demand, right?
Mm.
That brings us to South Africa. I've talked about South Africa. IL-20. I'm sorry to say, I mean, the guys who run IL-20, the guys who back IL-20 are very dear friends of mine. They watch this show, they're going to call me and say, Cash, Srinivas, why are you saying this? I have to say the truth. I have to say the truth for what it really is. How exactly, explain this to me? How exactly are you going to sustain this league by only ensuring that top players from across the world come and play without actually having local talent to support it?
Yeah.
Just by virtue of saying we have these two guys who are local doesn't mean that is local talent. No, that's not what
Yeah.
local talent is. Local talent is when your overseas players are at least four or five, and then your major compact the team is made up of the talent, homegrown talent, which is
Hmm.
not there. Second is we saw IL-20. I was in Dubai in February last week. I was there for one game, and I was sitting with some of the team owners watching the game, and trust me, there is genuine concern. There is, I mean, the stadium is 80% empty for an
Mm.
evening game. They're trying to understand how exactly to change this. Maybe they can learn, but then trust me, every passing season is only going to add to the pressure, because financially you got to keep sustaining it. So, as
Exactly.
I said, everybody is going to Suramya. In a certain way, if you look at this, this is also a battle of the survival of the fittest.
Mm.
All
Absolutely.
these businesses are there today, tomorrow they will one after the other have to perish if they cannot sustain. So the
Yeah.
strongest is going to sustain, and in that I think the biggest feline in the market is IPL.
And absolutely. And here, if we say sustainability is a very big issue because, as I already mentioned as well, that we can understand that you have money to run a league, to start a
Yeah,
league. That's okay that you have ticked that box. But then the question is that where will you bring the talent? As we saw in SA20 and ILT20, both the leagues collided with each other and the talents got
exactly.
distributed. And then you didn't even have the domestic talent as well, as you were mentioning about the ILT20. You don't have
Right.
the players to participate in your league, and there comes the whole issue of sustainability. How will you sustain these leagues? And there comes this IPL, which is going on. This is the 16th edition going on, running successfully, coming up with variations. New rules are coming up in IPL. If you see, this time is the home and away format of IPL. The stadiums are jam packed. People are going crazy for the matches out there. Now, IPL has done, definitely, it has done something very different, and it is consistently doing something very different that is making it relevant. Now, Shini, a quick take on this. How is IPL, in terms of quick pointers, how IPL is very much different from all these leagues that are coming up and that have come up in the recent past?
Well, number one, it is consumed like no other property in any country anywhere in the world
Hmm.
outside of football. So the
Hmm.
numbers, in terms of the eyeballs it is generating, is larger than most other sports in most other countries. You look at the American markets, the number of eyeballs that NFL generates
Hmm.
is not necessarily bigger than what IPL does. IPL is bigger.
Okay.
Where NFL makes up for is the spending capacity in America.
Huh.
For every
True.
dollar that India is earning, America is earning you $5 for that spot, and the numbers for the numbers that it is generating. And that is why the the perception of this league being larger than life, is because of the viewing value, not viewing
Hmm.
numbers, right? If you look at things from a numbers perspective, IPL is as big as any other product is at this point in time. It's the world's largest consumption ground where any kind of content is concerned. India, I'm talking about. And in that, we all know what kind of following does a sport like cricket have.
Yeah.
So, and this is only going to grow further, and it comes intrinsically to the Indian fan. Where watching cricket, last week we discussed sponsorship numbers,
Yeah.
media spends, and total revenues that sports in India attracted from an industry perspective. We stood at a figure of 14,500 crore, of which we
Hmm.
saw 12,500 crore came to cricket alone. So we can understand why exactly cricket it is what it is in this country. Out of $2 billion,
Yeah.
when $1.8 billion is restricted to one spot, then you can
True.
understand why exactly. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
that
so
said,
numbers are playing the big game. Numbers are playing the big game for cricket, and especially IPL in India. And also the viewership here in India. People really love the sport. And as you said, the market is really huge. Now, Srini, to wrap it up, I just want to know that what is ICC's take on all these leagues coming up and are continuing to come, and if we see the future, I feel that there'll be some other countries also that might be thinking of introducing a new league. In terms of that, what's ICC's take?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'm sure in a month or two there'll be another news break. Some other country starting a T20 league. And so okay, number one, the ICC really doesn't have a say in terms of whether you can start a league or you can't start a league. Okay,
Okay.
because these leagues are domestic leagues. They have nothing to do with ICC. They don't need ICC's patronage. The BCCI runs the IPL. BCCI doesn't need to ask ICC's permission. It's a domestic tournament. uh, you know okay, I mean, today, because the IPL is so big, and a window has been marked and kept aside for the tournament where no other cricket happens anywhere around the world. That's fine, because the kind of eyeballs and because the kind of interest the tournament attracts. But that aside, the ICC has no real say. That stands true for not just India but for any other country. But that
Okay.
said, the ICC can go strong in terms of setting up a policy, in terms of deciding how exactly do you need to time a league, and what must it take for a country to set up a league of its own. For example, UAE, United Arab Emirates, the ILT20, the Emirates
Yeah.
T20 league. Did the ICC sit down and kind of create a white paper in trying to understand what are the repercussions when a country with too much money to spend but too little cricket to show suddenly has interests and ambitions and aspirations to start a league of its own, without trying to understand the larger repercussions of a move like that? Is a T20 league going to allow you to nurture the sport at the grassroots level at home? So, what exactly the ICC needs to have in place here is a policy by way of which it can determine what exactly should a country need to do in order to start a T20 league. And the ICC needs to set up a policy where it needs to see that a country is doing enough to develop sport at a very grassroots level. Look at India, the world's biggest cricket market.
Yeah.
In a sport like in a country like India and in a sport like cricket, how important or how helping is the IPL if you don't have school and college level tournaments in the country, under 16, under 19,
Yeah.
under 21, under 22, whatever, under 25, Ranji Trophy, Duleep
Mm.
Trophy, Mushtaq Ali, Vijay Merchant, Vijay Hazare, NKP Salve, Moinuddollah, Kuch Bihar. Look at the kind of infrastructure. BCCI conducts more than 2,000 matches every
Hmm.
year. That is where the strength to keep cricket going comes from. IPL sits right at the top, and it's a business model that doesn't allow cricket to nurture and get stronger at the grassroots level.
Hmm.
Take a
True.
leaf from there. See what BCCI does outside of the IPL to understand how to grow cricket. And I think in that lies the whole story here, which I don't think many people understand, and definitely not the ICC.
Well, let's see if ICC comes up with a policy, so to say, in terms of the leagues in various nations. And as we were talking about the league cricket, and let's see if whether in a month or two we see other nations also coming up with various leagues. Who knows whether it will happen or not? But if it happens, we have K. Srinivas Rao to address all our issues and discuss upon those leagues as well. But today we were talking about the new league coming up in Saudi Arabia. That's what the reports have to say. And we also discussed at length whether it is sustainable to have these leagues or not. Thank you so much, Srini, for joining with me. And it was great having you here in this show.
Pleasure, pleasure. Bye.
Bye. So I was in conversation with Network 18 Group Sports editor K. Srinivas Rao, and we were discussing about the report that suggested that a new league is coming up in Saudi Arabia. Now, the bigger question here was that whether it is okay to bring in so much of league cricket in the world of cricket, and especially when there are new leagues already here in this list, and I'm referring to SA20 and ILT20 that started this year only. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section. And if you have other queries, other doubts, or other new topics that you want us to address in Business or Sports, do let us know. I'm here. I'll take all your questions to K. Srinivasra, and we will be discussing all of them in detail. Till then, you keep watching Cricket Next, क्योंकि cricket matlab cricket next.